leadership training from Stanford University, and an honorary doctorate in leadership from the Swiss Management Academy. His experience, after a rapid rise as a business executive, the crowning of his career was in the Cooperative Insurance Company of Kenya, now called CIC Insurance Group, which he joined in 1998 and became CEO in 2011. He led the transformation of CIC from a very small cooperative insurer to the third largest insurer out of 48 insurance companies in Kenya, 48 insurance companies in Kenya or in Africa, in Kenya. It became the leading cooperative insurer in Africa with subsidiaries in South Sudan, Uganda, Malawi, and by the time of his retirement in February 2015. But the word retirement should be taken very loosely, as you'll see in a moment. He has been honored with 2 awards by the President of Kenya for his contribution to cooperative development. He has the Order of the Grand Warrior, OGW. He was given that in 2005, and he has the award of the MBS, the Moran of the Burning Spear, in 2011. Both presidential awards. That must have been during Kibaki's time. Huh? During President Kibaki's time?
Yeah.
Yes. In the insurance industry, he was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2012, and he has served as chairman and vice chairman for about a dozen prestigious business associations and colleges. Currently, Dr. Kuria is a member of the Presidential Task Force on Parastatal Reform. He's the chairman of, I don't know if you say SMEP or SMEP, SMEP Microfinance Bank, which is a bank based on Christian principles and values explicitly. He's also the chairman of Endwealth Financial Services and the Ethics Commission for Cooperative Societies. So it's quite a resume. He's also a board member with Kenyatta National Hospital, Africa International University, Habitat for Humanity, SITAM, Crisis and Answer Ministries, and Dr. Kuria is a regular speaker at local and international conferences. So it's quite an honor for us to have him be here today. And so we're very grateful for him.
Doesn't matter, even if it covers a lot of my height. I'm not a very tall guy, so I'm sure you are seeing me. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing? Yeah, very well. Great pleasure to be here, courtesy of my mwalimu, Mamle, who taught me some years back until recently, and cherished his teaching. I was the oldest in the class, and a contemporary in terms of age, so we had a lot to share. So it's a great honor for me to be here this afternoon. Mwalimu asked me to come and share my leadership journey with you. And I say he actually enabled me to share it in a manner of speaking because he taught me personal leadership development. I did it at the tail end of my MA leadership at INU, and I found it extremely useful. So I'm born again. I am married to one Ruth. We have 4 grown-up children. Our last born is turning 29 this May. So as he celebrates his 29th, I also celebrate my 65th in the month of May. And we have 3 grandchildren, something that I'm very proud about and very happy for. And like you have heard, I retired after 36 years of continuous service in the financial services sector. 14 years of those 36, I was a CEO. So it was an exciting time for me. And leadership is something that I have been involved in from the early stages in my life. As early as in my secondary school days, I was very active as a chair of a number of clubs, debating, drama, Kiswahili. So my leadership skills actually started being honed and developed at that stage. And indeed, when we talk about leadership, for me, I just take it simply, just like John Maxwell says, that leadership is influence, and that you cannot accomplish anything in leadership without influence. So influence is the essence of leadership, and this is something that I have experienced over time. And yeah, my leadership journey has actually been quite interesting and eventful. And that is why I mentioned about personal leadership development, because Mwalimu helped me to contextualize my leadership journey in Bob Clinton's, timeline. It is something that I found extremely interesting. Some of the things I realized, they were important, but I didn't realize how important they were until I went through that course. That even at the very early stages, the foundation, the sovereign foundation, that God was still working in me, preparing me for the leadership, role that I was going to play much later in life, and actually prepare me to take over on very serious leadership responsibilities in my life. I come from a very humble background. I was born and brought up in Nyandarua, grew up in a small place known as Dodori. And Dodori has an interesting story, because it was seen as a place that was very backward, and the people themselves were very backward. What good could come from Dodori, just like they asked about Nazareth. I mean, that is the kind of background they come from, very, abject poverty. Remember at times we would sleep hungry, going literally, almost naked, almost with only one shirt and the two slits, I know you don't know about those shirts. We used to wear long shirts with slits without pants. I don't want you to imagine how I was. Even in the amidst that poverty, my mother is a very staunch Christian. She taught me, even amidst poverty, that you can still give. She was very generous, even to itinerant preachers who used to come through our home. They would be given a place to sleep, some water to bathe, and then they would be given food before we were even given food. And that, of course, that time I would feel annoyed about that. Our mother doesn't love us as much. Only I came to realize later that had a big impact in my life, that I realized that you don't give because you have plenty. That generosity comes from the heart. And it also taught me to be contented, to feel contented in the little that I have, which actually affected me ultimately as a steward, leader many years back, that I know how important it is to take care of the things that you have been given, because you are just a manager and trusted to do that by God, and you will be held to account for such. In terms of school, I went to secondary school in Nyahururu High School, which previously was known as Christian Brothers Academy. It was started by American Christian brothers. So they were staying somewhere like in a dorm. These are people who had given themselves up for service. They were not even taking a salary. So, that to me was something that left a profound, mark in me, that people can work for free. I started realizing the essence of service and how important it was, the essence of simplicity in life. The virtues of simplicity, the virtues of giving yourself to society and to the rest of humanity, the essence of humility. These are things that, of course, I went on internalizing as I continued in the development of my leadership. Ultimately, as I got to university, I was also taught economics by a very eminent professor known as Professor T.C.I. Ryan. He is currently the chair of the Monetary Committee of the Central Bank. He is an Opus Dei, and we hit it well so much because, I was a very disciplined student, very hardworking. Coming from that background, I learned how to work hard, because I came through hard life, and I knew in life you had to make it by working hard. So when I came to university, I didn't have the time to go carousing. I was always in the library, so I'm given an essay, I research for the essay like I'm doing a thesis, and Professor Ryan liked me for that, and he started getting interested in my background. And to cut the long story short, him being an Opus Dei also actually, influenced me a lot, just like the Christian brothers in my secondary school. And, giving oneself, working with great passion. So these are things that I have learned in life, and they have really kept me in very good stand in my leadership journey. So even as I got to my career, working life, I had already been prepared to take responsibility. I had already been prepared in terms of values. The values of integrity, the values of honesty, the values of hard work, the values of, service, the values of giving oneself and, working hard, being passionate about whatever I did. So as I started as a junior officer, in 1979, immediately after university, in fact, we were interviewed at university, and from August 1st, I was in my first job as a project economist in industrial development and commercial corporation. This is the organization that was involved in doing joint ventures in industry and commerce. It started Uchumi, started General Motors, started Firestone, started, all these big institutions you knew of a few years ago before they were brought down. They were developed through and my work was within a multidisciplinary team. We had engineers looking at the design of the industrial concerns. We had engineers of all kinds, mechanical, structural, chemical, we had financial analysts. So we worked from a very early stage. I learned how to work in teams. and how to harness the power of teams, particularly in a multidisciplinary context. And I worked in ICDC for 3 years, then I moved to Kenya National Assurance as an assistant manager in charge of research. I actually went to establish a research unit which ultimately metamorphosed and evolved to become the marketing department of the company. So, having that formative stage through life in school and then getting to the employment situation, I was also lucky to work under very good people that mentored me. I took them as role models. One of them was my immediate boss in ICDC, a graduate of Makerere. He was thorough, diligent. Even writing a technical report, if you had grammatical errors, spelling, he would cancel and the whole paper would be read. You know, initially the reaction is to get annoyed. Is this an exam? But then I realized very quickly that he was really, you know, developing my communication skills and discipline. And whatever you do it as unto God. You know, so don't take it because it's a technical report, you go on Mandarin English, Mandarin language, you know. And I tell you, you know, he left a lasting impression in me. He is now late, and may the Lord keep his soul in eternity. He was a good man. And then the executive director of the organization was also a humble man. I got to be exposed to him because of taking early responsibility at a very early stage. So this is something that is very interesting. You know, when you are disciplined, you take responsibility at an early age. People actually cannot help but identify you. And they even want to delegate responsibility to you because you have already proven yourself that you can work without supervision. And I tell you, that is how you really develop real leadership. When you have been empowered, when these things have been delegated to you, when you are left to use your initiative, this is how you are able actually to measure your true self and even to innovate, to be creative, you know, even take risks. Because leadership is actually to produce change. So you do that even at times by taking risks. So, by the time I was actually getting to now get to the very top echelons, I had already gone through this, through mentoring, going for all kinds of trainings, courses, seminars, and one thing that was unique for me is that I would identify seminars, courses that I thought were relevant, not only for my current job, but even for my future. I had already started seeing myself in the future. And one of the things that really exposed me to that is because I was a speechwriter for all the CEOs that I worked under. They would give me their speeches even below big people, senior public relations, market. I was actually a speechwriter even at a very early stage. And you know what? I would put myself in the position of the CEO. And therefore I started feeling like one and acting like one. You know? Amen. And then I tell you, these things also happen providentially. I never went out looking out to be the speechwriter. I was not in public relations, but I had that talent. And, you know, so the CEO saw it in me. And so that also. And the interesting thing is that the CEO would just tell me, there is this and this function, as you know, can you do a speech for me? He would not even tell me, I want you to cover this and this area. He left it to my ingenuity. And I would go and think about that function and what the CEO would want to say. And then he would ask me, one of them used to get annoyed with me. He was, Kuria, how can you be thinking the way I'm thinking? How did you know I was thinking that way? Oh, I think you should congratulate me. I'm thinking like you. You know, so by the time actually now I came to become the CEO of CIC in 2001, a very small company that I had joined in 1998 June. Actually, I joined in June, and by September, some international shareholders who had come to actually salvage the company from collapse in 1995 December, put in some capital, 90 million shillings. They became the majority shareholders, but they were just doing that from the international cooperative movement to save the company from collapsing. So they just came and said that they want to recover their money, they want to sell the company. That time I had just done a bit of a situational analysis of the company, being in charge of business development and planning. And I was the second in command. In fact, the way I joined that company is that I left another opportunity that was going to be much more lucrative. I was in transition, and I had been offered another position to be general manager, MD, of a stockbroking firm. The only thing that was remaining is that I told the owners I also want to have some shareholding. So those are the details that we were sorting out before. The same man who had hunted me for that job told me, Nelson, now another opportunity has arisen, and I think this is much more exciting. So then he told me the company, and of course I knew it, having been in the insurance industry. Lord, how can you tell me to go to that company? It is a poor payer, it is a poor performer. Why would you want me to go there? For what? He told me, now you are going to take a role that will prepare you for succession. So, with this, going to a stockbroking firm that is not that big, into an insurance company that is owned by the cooperative movement with great potential. So although it has not much salary and its profile is poor, let me plunge. I took that. And I tell you, these are the things that happen in your leadership. You have what Mwalimu used to say, these are tests. This one was an integrity test, that I have trusted you with the little. Now I want to see, to put you to test, fast forward, to see whether I can trust you with more. So, that's how I got to CIC, to go there and assist in the transformation of the company. To cut the long story short, when there was the international owners came to them, that is when I also demonstrated the virtue of courage. My predecessor, the CEO, had already given up hope because they had tried to turn around the company from January 1996. Now this is 1998. Nothing was moving. So, and that's why the other owners felt disenchanted. So I told them, no, this company is not being sold. They were actually commandeering us to go the following day and sign a contract, an agreement with another company, which they had actually negotiated in our absence behind our backs. So I told my CEO, we can't agree to this. This is wrong. They cannot do it behind our backs. Even if we are poor, doesn't mean that we have a dignity. We have our own dignity. And I told my predecessor, we are not going to allow this to happen. And we went to the board and explained to the executive committee of the board and told them, we are not going to agree to this. The rest is history. We started now working on transforming the company. 1998, this is a company that was doing a premium income of 170 million. By the time I left, I was retiring in February 2015. End of 2014, we had managed to do a premium income of 13.7 billion shillings.
Wow.
That had put us already in among the number 3 out of 48 insurance companies, rising from position 35 out of 37 in 1998. The transformation of CIC was phenomenal. And this is how now, this preparation that had been done in me, providentially, through initiative, through schools, through all kinds of mentoring, modeling, were now coalescing in a convergence to produce results. And this is why for all the time that I was in CIC established an unbroken record of being the fastest growing company for all those years. And by the time I left, we had already 3 subsidiaries in Kenya, a life company, a general insurance company, and an asset management company, and 3 subsidiaries in the region, like you were told, in South Sudan, Uganda, Malawi. So we were actually looking after the group with 6 subsidiaries. And it had risen to become the leading cooperative insurer in African continent. And within the third world, it was also taken as a role model of cooperative insurance development. And I got into many positions at international level, being used to go and develop others. So the one who was being sold was now the one going to salvage others. I chaired the development committee of the International Cooperative and Mutual Insurance Federation based in London. In Manchester, UK. And I can tell you that the transformation journey was exciting. Hard work. This is hard work that I learned so early. That even when I was a junior officer, I was always the first in the office. When I got to CIC, even when I was group CEO, not even an ordinary CEO, I was still in the office at 6 a.m. in the morning. And people would make fun of me. How a whole group CEO, how do you come to the office early like you are the one who opens for the sweepers? But for me, I knew I was a steward. I had to put in my best. I knew where I had come from abject poverty. And God had given me an opportunity and a privilege to break the cycle of poverty in my family. Amen. So I seized it with both hands because I said, this is a privilege. There are many others who are possibly even better than me who could have gotten this job. But God chose me at such time like that to be the leader. So for me, it is a privilege, and I have always taken the positions that have been bestowed on me as a privilege from God, and that is why I say my leadership is based on stewardship. My philosophy in leadership is that other than being a steward, I'm very passionate about improving the well-being and the welfare of the people. In terms of human dignity, in terms of socio-economic justice, in terms of empowering people so that they are able to be self-reliant and have self-responsibility, not the handout kind of development that we talk about here in Kenya, developing the dependency syndrome that the politicians have perpetuated here. That's why they treat us like people without dignity, because we are always on the receiving. So that is what I abhor in life, and I abhor inequality. So these are things that I found in the cooperatives. Cooperatives have those values. They have the values of empowering people, values of promoting self-reliance and self-responsibility, values of promoting equity. So those values were aligned to my personal values that I got from my own mom and the people who taught me, those Christian American brothers. my friend Professor T.C.I. Ryan, those are things they put in me. And that is the time I was operationalizing all those things that I had accumulated through education, through experience, and by God's grace.
Amen.
Okay? So, I can talk for hours on end. This is a subject that I'm very passionate about. But I'm giving you that capsule just to let you know, just have a glimpse. And then we can engage more. So as I retired, I left a legacy. And I'm proud of that legacy. Legacy in the form of that I grew people. I have a passion for people. Some of the people I found there as clerks with very good O-level grades and A-level, but they never thought that they could go to university. So when I went to CIC, I looked for opportunities to send these people for parallel programs. I gave them concessionary loans, and I'm happy that a number of them even came for their masters at ILU. One of them, by the time I left, was actually finalizing his PhD, and I had found him there as a clerk. I promoted an egalitarian regime, where even the driver, the messenger, and me, we had the same kind of benefits. If it is a loan to buy a car, a mortgage for a house, only the quantum, of course, that would differ because of the level of salary. By the time I left there, each and every driver that was there, we had 4 drivers. Each one of them was living in their own house, in good locations in Kasarani, and driving very good cars. And I was proud of this, that ultimately I was able to empower the people working with me, and even their families. They were able to educate their children because we took care of them through the kind of benefits that we had really liberalized. So, I am happy because of the legacy that I left. And even as I retired, I enjoy my freedom because I was a steward. I never at any given time misappropriated or converted any resources of the company for personal use. People would tempt me, tell me, oh, because this company did not have big salaries for a long time, you used your time to grow it, you will live with a small pension. Why don't we do a side business where you become a sleeping partner and then you will prepare for your retirement? I told them, you know, God will provide. The way He provided this job, even in retirement, He will not abandon me, He will still provide. And I tell you, He has provided for me.
Amen.
So I remained faithful to the end with the help of the Holy Spirit. So I enjoy my freedom. I don't run away when I see a Subaru Legacy on Friday. I don't know whether you get that joke. I enjoy my freedoms. And now, I am involved in so many responsibilities which I'm called for. I never go out looking for an opportunity. All those positions you had where I'm chairman, I'm board member, people come for me. That is what happens when you build a legacy, a record that speaks for itself, when you remain faithful. Doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes, even as when we are faithful, because we are all human beings, we are not perfect. But we strive and press on, like Paul says, to live as men and women of integrity. So, I can tell you, I enjoy myself thoroughly well. I am happy that God taught me, the value of remaining simple and humble. So I didn't get those complications of being full of, pride with power and what, status. I maintained a modest living kind of style. So even as I retired, even now I drive myself because I had already started driving myself. If I don't know where to go and park in town, I leave my car somewhere, I walk to town, go back, or I hop into a matatu. It's no big deal for me because I don't live for public opinion. That what will the people say about a former group CEO being seen walking around Serena going to town? Atasema kamekwisha. But I say, God has the final say.
Amen.
Not what men say or think. That is what matters to me. So thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, let me ask, these are very keen students, I discovered.
Yes.
So I'm sure that as you're talking, they have questions. So if you wouldn't mind, take a few questions from them and just respond to them. And can I start with the first one?
That's why I have even decided to be brief.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
The first one I'd like to ask, because I hear about this all the time in my leadership classes, and it's something like this. In the real world, corruption is a fact. And so if you don't cooperate with corruption, you can't really make your company successful. So it sounds like you've broken that in terms of the theory. And so I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that and then open up the rest of the questions.
Good. I think that is a narrative that has been circulated by the devil himself. So that we think that corruption can never be dealt with and that you cannot prosper without being corrupt because the whole environment is corrupt. And I believe nothing could be further from the truth. It only matters whose narrative you listen to. You listen to the narrative of the accuser of the brethren, the devil himself and his disciples, or are you rooted in the word of God? Because as far as I know, there is always a remnant that does not bow to the, to the Baal of corruption. And I want to tell you, even now, I did not engage in corrupt practices. I may not be a very wealthy person, but I'm well-to-do. I lead a good life. I've been able to educate my children. Incidentally, I did not even take my pension because it had not accumulated to a big pension. So when I retired, I left it in an umbrella scheme so that it could accumulate more. I want to access it now when I hit 65 after May. That is the reality. And I trusted God to provide for me. I said, if things don't work out in this period, I was still strong enough to go somewhere and take 1 or 2 years contract, work, and survive. But God has provided for me. It has not even come to that. So I tell you, you can survive without being corrupt. And even the organization that I worked for, integrity was one of our values. We were a company that was paying claims more than any other. In fact, one of my integrity tests was when I had risen now to the position of one of the more influential CEOs in the market. In the year 2008, I was to be elected. I was proposed to be elected the chairman of the Association of Kenya Insurers. That is the apex now within the insurance career and in the insurance industry. That is the time you remember of the political violence. And many entrepreneurs, small scale, they lost their businesses through fire, they were burnt down, they were, robbed. And the insurance industry were very quick to say, we are not paying those claims. They were not covered because there was no extension for riots and strike. And I said, we had never told the people to do extensions and they refused. So we did not educate the people. We did not bring to their attention that they could take an extension. So I said, for us at CIC, we are going to pay those claims. People are annoyed with me. How can you say that? Put the industry, into a corner, and you want us to elect you as chairman? I told them, I make a choice. Chairmanship is no big deal for me. What is important for me is the profile of CIC and the living of integrity as a value and our customers. Yes. We stood on the side of our customers and we paid those claims. And everybody else had ultimately to agree to pay the claim. And I was still elected chairman of the association. So standing for the truth always prevails. Of course, you pay a price. Are you ready to pay the price? That is where the difference comes in. As Mwalimu says. So if you say you are not going to play ball, the game of corruption, you must agree to pay the price. And you know what? That price is only in the short term. So if you have a long-term perspective in terms of development, that is nothing to worry you. Because for me, what mattered is the long term. And we built an organization that people said, oh no. If they were able to do this, from 2008, we had meteoric growth. We were actually almost doubling our premium every 2 years. And you are talking of billions of shillings. Because of passing that test.
Integrity test.
So I can tell you from a very empirical point of view that this narrative of the devil, even now, is the one that tells us that corruption is so entrenched into the DNA of Kenyans. Kenyans can never do without corruption. Let me tell you, I entered the working career in 1975 when the best employers were parastatals. In fact, working for a parastatal you were being paid more than people who worked for PwC, who worked for private companies. Because things worked. Because the men and women who are leading organizations, like I told you that time, ICDC, there was a man of integrity.